You are more beautiful than my wife.
You ungrateful friend. I let you into my house and you take over my home. You are wicked.
The rain that night was not ordinary rain. It fell in thick, heavy sheets, the kind that swallows the sound of everything around you, the kind that makes the air smell like wet earth and old memories. I remember standing at my kitchen window, watching the puddles grow in my compound, holding a warm cup of tea between both palms, feeling like life was finally settled. My name is Ngozi. I had worked hard for everything I owned: the 4-bedroom house, the small catering business I built from nothing, the husband, Anthony, who I thought loved me the way a man loves something precious and irreplaceable. I was not a rich woman, but I was a woman who had peace. And in this life, peace is worth more than any amount of money. Then the knock came. 3 knocks, slow, like someone who was not sure they deserved to knock. I opened the door, and there she was. Adaze. Her wrapper was soaked through, clinging to her body. Her eyes were swollen and red, the kind of swelling that comes from crying for hours, not minutes. She had one suitcase beside her, and it looked like it had been dragged through mud. In that moment, I did not see a threat standing at my door. I saw my best friend. We had known each other since SS1 in secondary school. We used to share one meat pie between 2 of us during break time and pretend we were not still hungry. We used to write each other's names in our notebooks with little flowers around them. We had survived poverty together, failed exams together, heartbreak together. Adaze was not just a friend, she was the sister God forgot to give me. "My fiancé left me," she said. Her voice cracked in the middle of the sentence. I did not ask questions. I did not tell her to wait. I pulled her inside, took her suitcase, and wrapped a towel around her shoulders before she could even finish telling me what happened. Anthony came out from the bedroom and saw us. He nodded, said it was the right thing to do. We gave her the guest room. I cooked jollof rice because food is how women like me say, "I love you," without using those exact words. That night, as I lay beside my husband in the dark, I felt proud of myself. Proud of the kind of woman I was. Proud that my friend had someone like me to run to. I pressed my face into my pillow and smiled. That smile was the last innocent thing about that season of my life. Because while I was sleeping peacefully, grateful for the warmth of my own home, Adaze was lying in my guest room with her eyes open, not crying anymore, thinking. If this kind of story touches your soul, do not go anywhere. Subscribe to this channel right now and ring that bell because the best part has not even started yet. The first few weeks were sweet. Adaeze woke up early and swept the compound before I came downstairs. She seasoned the stew better than I did and never complained about anything. My neighbors would see her sweeping or washing and say, "Ngozi, your friend is a good woman." Anthony said I had done a noble thing by bringing her in. I felt like I was glowing. But human beings, when they are comfortable, they begin to reveal themselves slowly, not all at once, slowly, like a pot that heats gradually. By the time you notice it is boiling, it has already been burning for a long time. It started with clothes. I came home from the market one Tuesday and found Adaeze wearing a headscarf that was identical to one I had bought just 2 weeks before. Same color, same pattern. I blinked and told myself it was a coincidence. These things are sold everywhere, after all. Then she cut her hair, the exact same way I had cut mine 2 months before. Then she started wearing my perfume, not asking, just wearing it as if it had always been hers. I would walk into the sitting room and smell myself on her body, and something uncomfortable would crawl across my skin. I could not name the feeling yet. I pushed it away. But then I started noticing the timing of things. Adaeze dressed her finest only when Anthony was around. When he came home from work, she would suddenly appear from the kitchen in a well-pressed dress, laughing, bringing him water before I even had the chance to stand up. She laughed at his jokes the way women laugh when they want a man to feel powerful, loud, musical, leaning forward, eyes bright. She found reasons to touch his arm. "Ah, Anthony, you are too funny," and let her hand rest there 1 second too long.
I watched all of this, and I told myself, Ngozi, you are being paranoid. This is your friend, your sister. But the body knows things before the mind accepts them. Every time I saw her beside him, something in my stomach would tighten. My chest would feel like someone had placed a small stone there. I would go to the bathroom and stare at my own face in the mirror and ask myself if I was imagining things. I was not imagining things. I just did not want to believe what I was seeing. Then the neighborhood changed. One morning, my neighbor, Mrs. Chioma, called me to the fence and said, with her eyes full of something careful, Ngozi, I hope things are okay at home. Some people are saying you have a sharp tongue with your husband. I stood there, frozen. Me? A sharp tongue? Anthony and I had our disagreements like every married couple, but I was not a difficult woman. I was not the kind of wife who made her husband's life hard. I knew who I was in that marriage. Who said that? I asked. Mrs. Chioma looked away. I don't want to tarry anybody's name. I walked back inside and closed my front door quietly because the kind of anger that was rising in me had no use for noise. It needed silence to grow properly. That evening, another neighbor, Brother Emeka, mentioned it casually, the way people mention something they think you already know. He said he heard I was too controlling in-house, that I made Anthony feel small. These were not my neighbor's words. These were words planted by someone who had been living inside my house, eating my food, sleeping in sheets I washed with my own hands. For the first time, I looked at Adaize across the dinner table that night and saw her for what she was becoming. Not my friend, my replacement. And she was building herself up piece by piece, using my own life as the foundation. I want you to understand what kind of woman I am. I am not a woman who shouts. I am not the type who throws things or makes scenes in public. I was raised by a mother who always said, Ngozi, a woman who knows her worth does not fight from panic. She fights from intelligence. So even as the signs multiplied around me, I kept my face calm and my eyes open. But there is a kind of fear that does not make noise. It just settles quietly in your chest like a heavy stone dropped in still water and sits there. That was the fear that found me in those weeks. Money started disappearing. Small amounts first, 2,000 naira, 5,000 naira. I would put something in a safe corner of my room and come back to find it moved, reduced, sometimes gone. I blamed my memory. I blamed the business. I counted and recounted and told myself I was being careless. Then, one Thursday afternoon, I came home 2 hours before I was expected. My catering job had cancelled for the day and I was tired. I just wanted to come in quietly, take off my shoes, lie down. I opened my bedroom door and there was Adaize, standing in front of my open wardrobe, both hands inside, fingers pushing through my things. The shock was so sharp I felt it in my teeth. She turned around and smiled, calm, as if she had been waiting for me to walk in, as if she had already prepared the answer before I could ask the question. I was looking for a scarf. I wanted to borrow one. I was going to ask you. Her voice did not shake too much. Her eyes did not blink too much. She was good at this. She had been practicing. I smiled back. No problem, I said. Let me help you find one. I helped her pick a scarf. I watched her leave the room. Then I closed my door, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the floor for a very long time. That night, I brought up what I had seen to Anthony, gently, not with accusations, just with concern. He looked at me the way you look at someone who is embarrassing themselves. Ngozi, must you always find something to complain about? The woman was looking for a scarf. Is that a crime? He kissed his teeth softly and turned away. That moment, that exact moment, that was when the stone in my chest stopped being fear. It became something colder, something focused, something that looked exactly like a plan. I did not cry that night. I waited until Anthony was sleeping. Then I got up quietly, walked to the sitting room, sat in the dark, and began to think. Not like a wife who was scared of losing her husband, like a woman who had been underestimated for the last time. I started watching them differently from that night, not with emotion, with precision. I kept a small notebook. I noted dates, behaviors, patterns. I started leaving a little earlier than necessary and coming back without announcing myself. I learned the rhythm of what happened in my house when I was not there. And what I was discovering made my blood run cold. The whispered conversations that stopped the moment I walked in. The way Adaeze knew the details of Anthony's workday before I did. The way he defended her in every turn with a readiness that was too practiced, too fast. I was not going mad. I was being slowly erased, and the people doing the erasing were sleeping comfortably under my roof. But I was not sleeping. I was gathering.
There is a particular pain in betrayal that no other pain resembles. It is not like the pain of falling and breaking something. That kind heals with time, with medicine, with rest. The pain of betrayal is different because it rewrites the past. Every good memory becomes suspect. Every kind gesture becomes a question. You look back at all the years of friendship and you start to wonder, when exactly did it begin? Was any of it real? Was I ever anything more than a stepping stone? That is the kind of pain I carried inside me as I prepared my response. I want to be honest with you. There were nights I cried so hard I had to press my face into my pillow so nobody would hear. There were mornings I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and talked to myself just to feel like someone in my life was on my side. There were moments when I felt so foolish, so utterly foolish for opening my door to someone who had come specifically to take what was mine. But I did not allow the pain to make me messy. I allowed it to make me careful. I had already started recording. A small device, the kind people use for work meetings. I had borrowed it from a business associate without explaining why. I placed it strategically. I do not want to say exactly where, but I will tell you this. The sitting room in a house reveals everything when the owners think they are alone. It took 9 days. 9 days before I had what I needed. The recording began with ordinary conversation, Anthony and Adaeze talking about food, about work, the kind of talk that sounds innocent. But people who are hiding something cannot stay hidden for long when they feel safe, and they felt very safe. Then Anthony's voice changed, lower, softer. He said, "How much longer do we have to pretend?" My hand gripped the edge of the table where I was sitting alone in my shop, listening through earphones. Adaeze laughed, that same musical laugh. She said, "Not long," she said. "She is too trusting, too soft. By the time she realizes, it will be too late." Then she said something that shattered everything that was left of my world, but also, strangely, freed me. She said, "I came here for a reason. Did you think I cried those tears for nothing?" I removed the earphones. I sat in complete silence for several minutes. Then I saved everything, backed it up in 3 separate places. I compiled every message I had managed to see, every note from my book, every date and incident, and I organized it the way someone prepares a legal case, because this was going to be my court. Anthony's family had a large gathering coming, a cousin's introduction ceremony, the kind where the whole extended family gathers in one compound. Uncles, aunties, grandmothers, the people whose opinion Anthony had always cared about most, the people who had called me his wife, who had eaten at my table, who had received gifts from my catering business. Anthony had already been laying groundwork there too. I heard through a relative that he had been hinting that our marriage was struggling because of my attitude. He was setting the stage to leave me with no dignity. So I decided to choose the stage first. I said nothing in the days before the gathering. I cooked for the event. I dressed well. I smiled at Adaeze that morning and helped her with her wrapper. I let her think she was winning all the way until the final moment. We arrived together. The family greeted us. Things started normally. Then, as the afternoon progressed and some of the uncles began the conversation directed at me about how to be a supportive wife and how women sometimes push good men away, I let them talk. I let them finish. Then I stood up quietly, asked for a moment, and I played the recording. I want you to imagine a compound full of people talking, eating, laughing. Now imagine all of that stopping. Not gradually, instantly. The only sound that remained was Adaze's voice coming from the speaker saying, "I came here for a reason. Did you think I cried those tears for nothing?"
Nobody moved. Nobody needed to say anything. Auntie Chidima, Anthony's oldest aunt, who had always been quiet and watchful, stood up from her chair slowly. She looked at Anthony. She looked at Adaze. She looked at me. Then she said in Igbo, something that even those who did not speak the language understood from her tone. This house is not built on a good foundation. Adaze could not look up from the ground. Anthony opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. There was nothing to say. The truth had already spoken louder than anything either of them could manufacture.
She left my house that same evening. The same suitcase she arrived with, she dragged out again. No ceremony, no speech, just the sound of wheels on concrete and the gate clicking shut behind her. Anthony tried to talk to me that night. He stood in the doorway of the bedroom with his hands hanging at his sides, looking like a man who has just realized the floor beneath him is not solid. He said things. Sorry appeared more than once. Explanations came, the kind that are supposed to sound like reasons but are really just dressed up excuses. I listened to everything. Then I told him, calmly, that I needed him to leave as well. Not because I was acting from anger. Not because the family gathering had embarrassed him and I wanted to punish him in the heat of the moment, but because the man standing in front of me had sat across from me at dinner every night while hiding something monstrous behind his eyes, had defended the woman who was dismantling my life, had called me paranoid when I tried to express fear, had agreed in my own sitting room, in my own home, that I was too naive. I had not imagined anything. I had simply loved too openly. The separation was not loud. It was not a dramatic, glass-throwing kind of ending. It was quiet, like a door closing slowly on a cold day. We handled what needed to be handled through family and through quiet agreements. I kept the house. I had built the foundation of it long before I met him, and those who knew the truth made sure that was recognized. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. I threw myself into my catering business the way you throw yourself into a river to wash something off, completely, without holding anything back. I hired 2 assistants. I got a contract with a hospitality company. I bought new curtains for the house, painted the sitting room a different color, rearranged the furniture, and one morning I stood in the middle of my compound and breathed in and realized the air smelled different, cleaner. Like something that had been stale for a long time had finally been removed. I was not perfectly healed. Some nights the questions came. How did I miss it for so long? How much of my life did I give to people who were counting my naivety as an advantage? Those nights were hard, but I had learned to sit with difficult feelings without letting them make decisions for me. Then, about 7 months after everything ended, I heard news through the neighborhood. Adaze had moved in with Anthony. Apparently, she had not gone very far. She had simply been waiting. And when the dust settled, they had found each other. Or rather, they had continued what they had started inside my house, now without the inconvenience of my presence. People brought me this news with careful eyes, watching to see if I would break. I thanked them and went back to my kitchen. Let them have what they built on betrayal, I thought. Let them live inside it. I did not have to wait long. 3 months after that, Anthony's behavior, the exact same patterns that had destroyed our home, began repeating itself with Adaze. He was unreliable, cold some days, absent without explanation. She, who had helped him practice dishonesty, was now on the receiving end of it. One quiet evening in the rainy season, almost exactly 1 year after the night she had first appeared at my gate, I heard a knock. 3 knocks. Slow. I opened the gate. It was Adaze, suitcase beside her, eyes swollen and red. This time, I did not feel the rush of compassion that had swept through me a year ago. I felt something steadier, something earned, a clarity that came from surviving something that should have broken me. She began to speak. She said she was sorry. She said she missed our friendship. She said she thought what she wanted was what I had, but now she understood she had only wanted to take, never to build. I let her finish. Then I looked at her for a long time, not with hatred,
Hatred is heavy, and I had decided I would not carry anything heavy anymore. I looked at her the way you look at a chapter in a book that taught you something painful but necessary. And then, gently, without drama, without a single word, I closed the gate. Not out of cruelty, not out of bitterness, but because a door that has been broken once and repaired is never quite as strong in the same place again. And I had worked too hard, hurt too deeply, and grown too much to risk the foundation of my peace on someone who only remembered my value after she had nothing left to take. Some people will call that coldness. I call it wisdom. Because here is what I want to leave with you today. And please hear me carefully. Kindness is not weakness. Helping people is not foolishness. Opening your door to someone in pain is one of the most human things you can do. But your kindness must have eyes. Generosity must come with discernment. When someone begins to use your softness as a map to your destruction, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is close the door. Not everyone who cries at your gate deserves a room in your house. Not everyone who eats your food respects the hands that cooked it. And the people who call you too naive while benefiting from your goodness are not seeing you clearly. They are showing you exactly who they are. Watch people's behavior, not their words. Watch what they do when they feel comfortable and unseen. Watch who they become when they stop performing gratitude. That is where the truth lives. Adeze taught me to watch. Anthony taught me that peace is not something another person gives you. It is something you choose, protect, and rebuild even when you have to do it alone. And I, Ngozi, learned that the most powerful revenge is not destruction. It is becoming, quietly and completely, the woman they underestimated. If this story felt like something you or someone you know has lived through, please subscribe to this channel, share this story, and leave a comment below telling me what would you have done when you heard those voices in the sitting room. Thank you for watching.